Hey there, Willowbrook. Thanks for doing daily devos with us today. We are in Acts chapter 8. Do you like movies where the villain turns hero? There's several movies with this storyline. Maybe you're familiar with them. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. We know that the Grinch is known for being mean, but eventually his heart grows and he becomes the good guy. Or Ebenezer Scrooge. Scrooge is known as not the nicest guy, but eventually he turns into this nice guy. Or maybe my family's favorite would be from Despicable Me, where Gru, who is known for being a villain, eventually turns into this cuddly, sweet father. Well, our story today is of a man named Saul, who we know will eventually become one of the good guys. But in Acts chapter 8, we see that Saul, who will later become Paul, is absolutely still the villain. In fact, at the beginning of chapter 8, verse 1, it says this, it says, "And Saul approved of their killing him. And on that day, a great persecution broke out against the church in Jerusalem." You see, for Jews, the chosen people of God, it was not okay to be professing Jesus as the Messiah, the one that they had been waiting on, the Son of God. And Saul, who will later become Paul, is very invested in the persecution of Christians. Keep reading with me in this verse. It says, "And all except the apostles were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria." So right now they're in Jerusalem. They're in a city. And the apostles, which is so interesting because Jesus himself told these apostles to go, to get out of town. But it says that all of them were scattered throughout Judea and Samaria except these apostles. And godly men buried Stephen and mourned deeply for him. But Saul began to destroy the church, going from house to house. He dragged off both men and women and put them in prison. Now, what we see in this chapter is great persecution coming to God's people. We see that the very leaders, these disciples that have now become apostles, these ones that are to be sent out, are not going. In fact, it says others were going. They had scattered, but not these apostles. And God, in all of his goodness, has a desire that the truth about who Jesus is, why Jesus came, and his redemption and rescue plan for the world, he is not going to let it stay in the little small town of Jerusalem. No, God wants it to spread and go to the world. And that's what happens in chapter 8. We begin to see that these apostles are going out, that they are in fact now scattering, and people are coming to know about this Jesus, about the rescue plan of deliverance from sin and the law and the old covenant that Jesus is providing. I think it's important that we get to see, even in this chapter, that what feels like the worst for a lot of us, persecution, wait, I should be rewarded for being a follower of Jesus, shouldn't I? I mean, I'm doing the right thing. I am pleasing God with my life. I've surrendered to God. Shouldn't that be a good thing? What we find, though, is that this thing that a lot of us wish that it would be the thing we're rewarded for is the thing that we're often persecuted for. People don't understand. People don't like it. And people treat us unkindly or unfairly. And God uses, check this out, he uses persecution to spread the truth of Jesus. It can be hard for us to wrap our brain around it because, quite frankly, persecution is hard. We as Western Christians, we may not face the same kind of persecutions that people, our brothers and sisters around the world do. And sometimes we think, wow, Christianity is declining. Let me tell you that that would be a myth if you believe that. Because what is actually true is that in other parts of the world where there is great persecution, people are dying for their faith. Guess what's happening? The truth of God, the truth of Jesus coming and rescuing us is spreading faster than ever. It's a funny phenomenon that where there is great persecution, there is almost always a great move of God where people are coming into relationship with him. If you find yourself in situations where you think that you are being persecuted for your faith, you think it's unfair, you question God in it. Wait, this is not how it's supposed to go, God. This is your moment to step out, to trust that God has a plan for his redemption story, and he may just be using the suffering that you go through so that the gospel truth will go out as well. Be encouraged that as you face suffering, that it is not for naught, that God has a plan and he will use persecution so that others might know about Jesus. I hope that you will be encouraged today. I hope that you will lean in more to God, knowing that whatever you're facing today, that God has a big plan. And in fact, some of his plans don't feel good to you, but they are about his kingdom growing. And that he wants others to have the opportunity to know and trust him, to spend eternity with him, to be in relationship with him. And your suffering may just be part of the key to that happening. I hope that you'll have a happy Wednesday.